My dear readers, the spectacle of Jack Posobiec at CPAC declaring with unbridled glee the end of democracy would, under normal circumstances, be dismissed as the ramblings of a fringe lunatic. However, these are not normal times, and Posobiec is not merely an isolated voice, but a symptom of a more profound malaise afflicting the body politic of the United States. "Welcome to the end of democracy," he exclaims, with the sort of bombast that could only be conceived in the darkest satirical recesses of a mind like Jonathan Swift's. Yet here we are, forced to contend with this farce in the stark light of reality. To observe Posobiec, a man who has fashioned himself as a torchbearer of truth in an era defined by the convoluted conspiracy, is to witness a peculiar form of theatre. It is as if we have been transported back to the days of McCarthy, albeit with a less discerning audience and a protagonist devoid of any semblance of shame. His pledge to finish what the rioters of January 6th began is not a rallying cry, but a grotesque parody of patriotism, a spectacle that would be comedic in its absurdity if its implications were not so dire. And then there is Bannon, ever the cheerleader of chaos, who finds in Posobiec a kindred spirit. Together they weave a narrative so detached from the principles upon which the Republic was founded that one might wonder if they have confused the Federalist Papers with a dystopian novel. Their vision of America, an ash-strewn wasteland from which a phoenix of their own myopic design is to rise, is not just flawed, it is a blueprint for despotism. Posobiec's diatribe against the so-called deep state and his messianic delusions of leading a conservative resurgence are not the markings of a revolutionary thinker, but the last refuge of a scoundrel. He talks of draining swamps and razing them to the ground, yet one cannot help but notice that he seems all too comfortable in the mire, so long as he can fancy himself the king of the leeches. The tragedy of Posobiec, and indeed of the movement he purports to lead, is not just in their assault on democracy, but in their utter lack of originality. They regurgitate the same tired tropes, the same worn-out conspiracy theories, the same baseless allegations against their perceived enemies, with all the finesse of a schoolyard bully, parroting lines from a second-rate gangster film. In the end, Posobiec's CPAC performance is a stark reminder of the challenge facing those who still believe in the Enlightenment values of reason, liberty, and the pursuit of knowledge. The fight against this tide of unreason is not just political, it is existential. For in the cacophony of lies, half-truths, and outright fabrications that men like Posobiec peddle, there is a very real threat to the fabric of democracy itself. In their rhetoric, Posobiec and Bannon unwittingly embody the ethos of the most deranged segments of our society, the incel, the school shooter, those steeped in a toxic brew of entitlement and grievance. They are not leaders but Pied Pipers of discord, leading an orchestra of the disaffected who mistake their own alienation for insight. This dangerous confluence of self-pity and aggression, which underpins the darkest corners of the Internet, now finds its voice on the political stage. Here, the language of overthrow and destruction is not a call to arms for justice, but a petulant howl against a world that refuses to bend to their warped vision. Theirs is a manifesto not for change but for chaos, a testament to what happens when the impotent rage that fuels the loneliest corners of the Internet is given a platform and, frighteningly, an audience. Let us then not despair at the likes of Posobiec and Bannon, but take their bluster for what it is. The death rattle of an ideology so bereft of substance that it must clothe itself in the garb of revolution to hide its inherent vacuity. The task ahead is formidable, but the cause of truth, justice, and democracy has always found a way to prevail against the forces of darkness and ignorance.